It's always fascinating to see how people who should be careful about pointing fingers end up exposing themselves. In today's discussion, we'll take a closer look at Rachel Reeves, one of the MPs behind the controversial cut to the winter fuel allowance for pensioners, and the revelations about her expenses that have surfaced. Let's just say things aren't looking good for her right now. But before we dive into all the details, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and join our fast-growing community of viewers who are keeping informed about what's going on across the UK. So what's the latest? Just yesterday, the UK was rocked by the news that pensioners would be losing out on their winter fuel allowance following a vote that passed in Parliament. It's a decision that has sparked outrage up and down the country, and rightly so. The winter fuel allowance is a crucial support for many pensioners who rely on it to keep their homes warm during the cold months. With energy prices already through the roof, this decision feels like a betrayal of the most vulnerable. One of the key figures under fire for this is none other than Chancellor Rachel Reeves. And here's where it gets interesting. While Reeves has played a major role in pushing through these cuts, new reports show that she has been claiming thousands of pounds in taxpayer money to cover her energy bills. Yes, you heard that right. While taking away from pensioners, she's been making sure her heating is well taken care of, courtesy of the public. Let's break down the numbers. In the last 5 years, Reeves has claimed £3,700 toward her energy bills. That's on top of her generous salary of £91,346. To put that in perspective, her claims are more than 2.5 times what a pensioner would have received over the same period in winter fuel payments. And when you look at her total expenses, the number climbs to £4,400. Now, many are calling for her to repay that money. And it's not just Rachel Reeves. The Telegraph published an analysis showing that Labour MPs as a whole have claimed over £425,000 from the taxpayer to heat their second homes in the past 5 years. That's £83,000 more than what a typical group of households would have spent on energy in the same time frame. And this while they're voting to cut support for pensioners. It's truly staggering. Here's how the system works. MPs are allowed to claim expenses for accommodation costs if they are renting a property that isn't their own, and they're capped at £29,290 in London and £19,940 elsewhere, which has to cover both rent and heating costs. While this policy might seem fair on the surface, it's the amounts and the hypocrisy that have people furious. Yesterday, Labour MPs voted to cut the £300 annual winter fuel allowance for pensioners earning as little as £11,343 a year. Yet these same MPs are comfortably claiming thousands to heat their homes. Liz Kendall, who led the debate on cutting the winter fuel allowance, has herself claimed £5,700 in energy expenses over the past 5 years, enough to cover the winter fuel allowance for 19 pensioners this Christmas. Let that sink in. And it gets worse. Senior Labour MP Liam Byrne has the highest energy claims of any MP, racking up an eye-watering £18,400 over the past 5 years. Byrne has explained that his energy provider overcharged him, but even with that explanation, the numbers are jaw-dropping. Meanwhile, MPs like Yasmin Qureshi and Naz Shah have also made significant claims. £11,800 and £10,300 respectively. To make matters even more shocking, many MPs have 2 properties, one in London and one in their constituency. So these heating bills aren't even for full-time usage. It's hard not to feel anger when you consider how many pensioners are going to struggle to stay warm this winter while MPs are billing the public for their cozy second homes. As you'd expect, social media has been set alight with reactions. Writer Gareth Roberts summed it up best when he asked, "How could they not have realized somebody would notice this?" Another user fumed, "She made sure to take care of herself first, didn't she?" And the calls for MPs to pay back the money are growing louder. Simon Francis from The End, Fuel Poverty Coalition, said it plainly. While MPs are keeping warm on public funds, pensioners will be left out in the cold. John O'Connell from the Taxpayers Alliance added to the criticism, saying taxpayers are fed up with politicians who can't practice what they preach. Families across the country are struggling to meet rising energy costs. Yet our representatives seem to be insulated from the worst of it. He's right. There's a deep disconnect between the people making these decisions and those who are affected by them. So, what's your take on this situation? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, the latest in the saga surrounding Prince Harry's U.S. visa has taken a surprising turn. The legal battle to force the release of Prince Harry's visa records has now been sealed from public view. But this doesn't mean the case is over. The conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, has been fighting to get the U.S. government to release Harry's visa records under Freedom of Information laws. This all stems from Harry's admission of drug use in his memoir Spare, where he talks about using marijuana, cocaine, and psychedelic mushrooms. For most people, confessing to drug use like that could seriously impact their visa status, with the risk of deportation. But Prince Harry's case is, of course, unique. On September 9th, two sealed orders and a sealed memorandum were filed in court, closing the public's access to the case. But the Heritage Foundation is still pursuing the case and could appeal the decision. The key question remains, did Harry receive special treatment when applying for his visa? The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has argued that visa records are private and exempt from disclosure. The Heritage Foundation claims that by revealing so much about his personal life in his book, Harry effectively waived his privacy rights. This has sparked its own legal and ethical debate, with DHS countering that just because something is written in a book doesn't necessarily make it true. Politically, this case is gaining traction. U.S. Ambassador Jane Hartley has reportedly stated that Harry won't be deported while Joe Biden is president. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has been more ambiguous, refusing to rule out the possibility of deportation should he return to office. Prince Harry's camp has remained silent on the case, but it continues to stir controversy. The big question is whether Harry received preferential treatment and whether the public deserves to know the truth. What are your thoughts on today's stories? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on British news. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and goodbye.